Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Cozy Mystery Mingle. I'm so excited because I have not one, but two fabulous guests today. So I'll let them introduce themselves. Who wants to go first?
Okay. Hi, I'm Courtney from Courtagonist. If you guys know me from the Cozy Mystery world, I have a book club and a YouTube channel where I talk about all things bookish, and yeah, that's me.
And I'm author Ellie Alexander. I was just trying to count this morning. I think A Smoking Bun was my 35th mystery that's been published. So yeah, it's a lot of cozy killing at this point.
I mean, you did start writing when you were what, 5?
Yeah, right. Totally. Obviously.
Right. Yeah. So if you guys did not know, Courtney and I used to have, and I have our old mug out, the Cozy Escape Book Club.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So
Yes.
book club. I got lazy, and Courtney has to run it solo now, but she's doing fabulous.
Thank
and
you.
then you two know each other already too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ellie and I became friends years ago.
I know. Lucky us. All from books. This is what books do, right?
Yes.
And we should stop and take a moment to congratulate Courtney on her new book.
Yes. So I've got I'm supposed to get my book Death on Deck back from proofreaders this week. And then it'll go on to after I make those changes, it'll go on to Galley, I think, is the next process. So
Very cool.
Yeah, super excited.
Yeah. And that's after taking, and I can leave a link to it too, after taking Ellie Alexander's course.
Yes. No, that course is absolutely amazing. Like if you ever have the inkling of ever murdering off someone, then this is fictionally, of course, this is the perfect course to take. Like I'm already going through it again because I started outlining book 2 of the Cruising Crew this past week. And so I'm just going through it again and getting those little hints and everything. And it's just so good.
Awesome. That's great. And so you were already contracted to do book 2 for them?
No. So the way that this publisher works is apparently I have to write book 2 first, and then they have to, then I sign a contract for book 2. So that's how they work.
Okay. All right. And Ellie, your course is evergreen, right? So people can just enroll whenever, right?
They can enroll whenever. But I have to say too, like the idea is to build the foundation of, what you need for a mystery and everything. But writers like Courtney have also put in all the work. You have to do the work yourself. Well, and too, Lisa, because you write as well. Like it's a slog too. And I think sometimes we get overwhelmed by that. So one of my goals with the course is to break it down into manageable bite-sized pieces. But I know with Courtney, like once you take off and you have an idea, then sometimes you have other book ideas, and it's a slippery slope in a good way, right?
Yes. Yes. I'm constantly like, okay, so how can I do this? And then I've got all of these notes on my phone, and it's just never ending.
Very cool. Totally off subject. I've always wondered this. Is Ellie short for Ellen?
No, Ellie is my pen name. And it's actually my mom's middle name, or my mom's middle name was Eleanor. So it's short for Eleanor. And then my son's middle name is Alexander. So it's a little nod to both of them.
Oh, that's very cute.
But when I was first writing and like doing appearances as Ellie, I didn't have any attachment to the name yet. And people would be like, Ellie. And my husband would be like, they're talking to you. You have to stop and say hi. Like, oh, yeah. Now I just answer to Ellie whenever I'm out and about.
Cool. Are you going to use a pen name, Courtney?
So I changed my last name. So I like having my first name as my first name, and then I changed it to Bradley, which was my original last name, and it was my pawpaw's last name, and so it's a nod to my pawpaw.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like you. I can't, I'll do what Ellie does. Like if I tried a new pen name which wasn't Lisa, and every time someone said, hey, Jane, or whatever what it was, I just totally ignored them. Like I was like, who are they talking to?
Not me. Yeah. It was a bad look. Yeah.
So, okay. So now that we all know who's who, we are here to talk about your new book. So do you want to tell us a little bit about it and the plot and all that?
Sure, you bet. So this is the 18th book. I have to stop myself. Is that right? Yeah. It's the 18th. Courtney's like, yeah.
I think it's 19.
Yeah. Is it 19?
I think think it's 19. I wrote down 19.
Maybe it is.
I'll look it up while you.
Listen, I'm on the Patreon, so like I'm already on book whatever.
Oh,
like,
no. I'm so far ahead. I'm working on book 21 right now. So, okay. Well, anyway, it's.
Oh, no. I'm wrong. It's book 18. You're
okay,
right.
phew. Yeah. This is how my life works, though. I'm like, when did I write this book? So this is the 18th book in my Bakeshop mystery series. This series is set in Ashland, Oregon, which is where I lived for many years. It's a real place. And it features a very romantic pastry chef, Juliet Montague Capshaw, but she prefers to go by Jules, who, has a penchant for making beautiful cakes and pastries and stumbling upon murder. The title of this one is A Smoking Bun. And it is set up on the slopes of Mount Ashland during a downhill dummy ski competition where the community builds these crazy contraptions, straps them on skis, and then sends them shooting down the ski slopes. And of course, a murder ensues. And there's a lot of delicious winter baking in this one. So buns and hot food and everything you would want to like cozy up by the fire at the end of the day.
Yes. Yeah, I love how, and I'm not as avid of, I don't think I've read all the books, but I love how you go through and like, I kind of feel like I could make them. Like Jules like talks about how she makes it, how long she lets them sit, right? And how the ambient temperature and how she turns on the oven to get that warmed up. So like, it's a good instructional like recipe book.
Yeah, for sure. My problem when I'm writing them, because I am working on a new book now, is that I get so caught up in the food writing. In fact, all of my notes right now are about like scones. And I'm trimming because it's like, no, you're not. It is ultimately a murder that we're working on here. You're not writing a cookbook. But I'm like, oh, and then this.
But no, like I have made many of your recipes and they're all just like, they're like so on point, and the instructions in the back of the book with all of the recipes. I have made Andy's drinks. I have made savory things with the tomato soup from one of the first books in the series. Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah, I think that makes a huge difference. There was one author, we won't name her, but she has a baking one, and I think Courtney and I, this like way years back, we both tried making them, and we called each other. I'm like, this didn't turn out right.
Right,
it doesn't taste right. I don't think anyone.
Yeah. Was it user error? Because I mean, it could have been user error. I'm not the baker in the family. My husband is.
No, but still, if it's both of you, right?
Yeah.
And we tried lots of, and so I think it makes a huge difference. I mean, when you put recipes in the back, sometimes I think people throw them in there, but a lot of readers, I like actually like them and try them.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And that's really important for me. And that's always like the last layer of the writing that I do as well. So like these notes that I'm working on today, tomorrow I will go bake all of these scones in the kitchen. And because I want to get it right, because I do love to bake. So same thing, like when I have a recipe that bombs, of course, sometimes it's me, but you can tell when a recipe hasn't really been tested too. But then from a writing perspective, that always lends so much to the book too. Cause I am like, oh, the texture feels crumbly or coarse. Like you can add in those details that make it really feel real. What I find so interesting is like readers will totally be fine believing that Ashland has had 18 murders, this tiny little sweet town in Southern Oregon, right? But if you get any of the like baking details wrong or any of the other like world building things and it pulls somebody out of the story, that's when I think things fall apart. So it's really funny because it's like you almost do have to put more emphasis on getting all of the sensory details right, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like if I know that something's off, like with sensory, or if even their knowledge about their hobby that I know more about or something like that, I'm like, did you just Google that? Like, did you just pick the very first thing that Google sent you? Or do you actually know what you're talking about? Like those things really do just yank you out of the story. And then it takes me a while to go, okay, now I'm going to focus in.
Yeah. And then you sort of lose trust a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think what makes the book so more authentic, I don't even know if that's grammatically correct, but I think it's because you're from Ashland, right? And you have host your thing in Ash. Like it's so obvious, like, you know, everything going on, what's what, the elevation, the temperature, seasons, all of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I got reader email once because I said, this was for my other series, my Leavenworth series. And I said, it's a town of about 2,000 people. And for some reason, she read that as it's a town at 200,000 feet of elevation and sent me an email about it. And I was like, well, you would be dead at 200,000 feet of elevation. Yeah. And also go back and read it again. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Well, this is book 18. So there are 17 books ahead of this. So it must be hard trying to put a different spin on each book. Like, what did you do, I guess, for this particular book to kind of help it stand out?
Yeah, that is such a great question. I think that, each book, like as I'm wrapping up the previous book, I'm already sort of thinking ahead and I'm thinking, I think the gift of writing a long running series is that you get to build the entire cast of characters. So I'm thinking about the secondary staff at the Bakeshop and like where there are storylines and arcs could be going. I try to follow the seasons. So like for this, we are fully in the mountain vibes, right? Everything is like snowy and cold and wintry. It's the food. It's all of the activities. They're doing a moonlight snowshoer. They're in the lodge. It's New Year's Eve. So I try to get that piece. I do feel like at this stage, the challenge is how in the world do I describe a pastry in any way that I have not already said 18,000 times plus? It's buttery, it's flaky, it's my thesaurus has been well used and well loved. So I worry about that. Like at some point, readers are going to be like, okay, yeah, I know it's golden brown. Yeah. I know it's buttery. Yeah.
No, I want to know all the golden brownness. There's a reason why I've read 18 of the Bakeshop mystery, because you write it so well that my mouth is watering and I'm like, there's a bakery on Main Street where I live. Like, I could just drive over there. So it's on point.
I think it's too, like, to me, it's people keep reading romance because they like the kissing scenes and the bedroom scenes. And yes, they get repetitive, but like, I like it. And so it's same thing with I always love culinary cozies. I like the food and I like hearing about it over and over and over again.
Ad nauseum. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So like the next book, Sticks and Scones, which will come out in August, hence why I'm working on scone recipes today. That one is set in spring. So it's a lot of like vibrant strawberries and fresh cherries and everything in nature looks different. So I do try to weave that piece in just for my own sense of, I wouldn't have wanted to write like 2 seasonal books back to back, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I was able to, and I've read a few of them, but I haven't read all 17. So I was able to jump into book 18 just fine. But I guess, what would you want other readers to know just jumping right in, like basics?
Yeah, I think that's always a challenge too. How do you make sure that if somebody is picking up the series for the first time at book 18, they have a pretty good sense of what's happening? Obviously, as we all know, like in these series, the murder itself is always just closed. It starts at the beginning of the book and it finishes. But there are all these other arcs and secondary plot lines that have been happening over the course of many books at this stage. So I feel like the onus is on me as a writer to make sure that I have covered that well, and then also balanced it out so I'm not boring somebody like Court who's come along for 18 books and you're like, yeah, I know who Andy is, shut up already. He's the barista. So I do think it's a balance. I think I personally, of course, as a reader myself, first and foremost, I like to go all the way through a series, but as a writer, I'm always so impressed when readers jump in somewhere and then say like, oh no, I picked it up at book 11 and then I went back and read some and then I went forward and read some. So I kind of love that.
All right, good. And so going back to the authenticity, do you have a ski lodge out there that you modeled this after?
Yeah. It's totally modeled after Mount Ashland. And in fact, the cover art, I sent my editorial team pictures of the ski lodge so that they could kind of try to recreate it, which they did.
Oh, very cool.
Your covers are always so amazing for the Bakeshop series.
Best covers. They're like my favorite.
I know. I can't take any credit. It's all the team at Macmillan. I wished, but it's not me.
So are you a skier?
No, not at all. I'm a stumbler on mountains. I love to snowshoe and cross country. I love being up in the snow, but I am not a daredevil in any way, shape, or form. So I enjoyed watching the downhill dummy competition, which is a real thing. My whole family, we went up and spent the day, and people line both sides of the ski jump. And just like drink hot chocolate and eat delicious things and cheer as they just send these dummies crashing down the hill, which is so bananas, but it's awesome.
Huh. Courtney, do you ski?
No. In Oklahoma, there's nothing here. There's nothing here.
I was going to say, I grew up in Illinois. It's flat in Illinois.
Yeah. It's just flat here. Like we have something that's called Turkey Mountain. It's like a hill. There's nothing to write home about over here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I mean, I like the idea in theory of snow skiing. I've been water skiing. I don't think it's the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I've done water skiing. Now I do love getting my like adrenaline going. I love rock climbing, and I love rappelling down mountains. I love doing those kind of things. That's a lot of fun for me. So
I can just hang out with the boys in the ski lodge, and we can just have some hot chocolate while you go do your adrenaline stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
Have a nice little cocktail.
Yeah. I am an excellent hot chocolate orderer.
Perfect.
That's my smart. So, okay. So ski lodge, fun. So I mean, I've never seen that. I've never even heard of that, obviously, because I don't ski, but does that happen a lot at ski lodges, or is this like specific to sending the dummies in?
I know, right? This is, I think, pretty unique to Ashland because it's a smaller market and everything. But ski lodges in general do funny stuff like that. Like, they'll have onesie competitions where skiers and boarders come in like costumes and onesies and ski down the hill. They'll do Bavarian nights and themed events. So I don't think it's so rare. Although the story that I have been telling about this book, which is my favorite, is that I got a note back from the copy editor saying that she thought I needed to completely change the murder because it was so outlandish and unbelievable. And I was like, oh, no, it's real. Like I immediately am like, here's a video of me at it. Here are pictures. And she was just blown away. Again, because, I think a lot of the editorial staff are in New York. They probably are like, they're not sending dummies down a ski jump in Oregon. What are you talking about? Well, they are. Yeah,
they are.
Yeah, it's a thing. Okay, cool. So this is also in the story, we get to meet Ramiro's family.
Yes.
And is this the first time she's meeting them?
Yes.
Oh, even though they've been married.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yes, but there's turmoil and things that lead up to this meeting. So I am a proponent of reading them in order. Because you have to go with Jules's story arc, and you have to go through the trouble that she had with Carlos from the beginning to really appreciate and love where she is at in her life with Carlos and Ramiro, and then meeting Ramiro's mom. Like you have to go through it.
Yeah, because I had skipped some books, and so like in the beginning, because the first book, I thought Carlos was this awful person, right? Because she ran away from him, and I was like, oh, thank God she's rid of him, right? Yeah. And then I came to this book, and she's like, oh, he's so wonderful, and I was like, he is? Is this a different Carlos? No,
right.
It's the same one.
I know.
So yeah, I missed some things.
I love that from a writing perspective, because that was my plan all along. To kind of like flip the switch, because I think sometimes, we are expecting like he's just going to sort of be the terrible like ex-boyfriend who tells you that shirt is not fabulous when it is. And her growth arc was really initially about her coming home and like finding herself, and then ultimately finding her way back to him. And what I love at this stage is also that idea, because I think, a lot of times we see mother-daughter relationships that are really maligned and contentious, which happens in the real world too. But I also like writing a mother-daughter team where they're so supportive of each other. And the same goes for this sort of idea of a blended or step family. There's so much in the media, just in the zeitgeist of our culture about like the evil stepmom, which I don't think is always true either. So I love getting to expand on this idea of found family and how, you can expand your idea of what family looks like. So that was kind of the theme of this book a little bit.
Okay, good. And so is Carlos's family, are they really involved in the investigation, or what do they think of her sleuthing?
Yeah, I think they're just, they're more peripheral characters at this point. I don't know if they'll show up again in a future book. I could imagine if I send her over to Spain at some point in time, like there might be a way to loop them in. So I think she's more apologetic and thinking like, oh my gosh, you're all visiting and here I am like scurrying off to solve a murder, but she has to.
She has to, obviously.
Yes.
And so do they like Jules and
definitely
Carlos together? Okay. So
yeah,
everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So let's talk a little bit more about Ashland. Now, Courtney, you went to Ashland.
I did. I went to Ashland last October for the very first Ashland Mystery Fest.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fantastic. Literally exactly how Ellie writes it. Like,
all right.
It's like beautiful. I did not want to come home.
So were there any parts of the book where you were like looking for shops and
well,
sites?
and then she also did like a scavenger hunt around Ashland, sort of like showing us like different places that were based off in the books. And like I loved like Oberon's and like going to like seeing the bakery, and then like even being able to like, I'm not gonna lie, I teared up when I walked and saw the Lithia Park sign. Like it was just, I have been reading these books since 2016. Like I have been reading them since the beginning, and to be able to walk the streets of like, I kept thinking that Lance was going to come around the corner. I kept thinking that like we actually went to a coffee shop and there was like this young college kid barista. And I was like, I am naming you Andy the whole entire time that I am here. And that you are just Andy. And people in Ashland are so chill. He was like, all right, man. Yeah, I'm Andy. Sure. And I'm like, yes, thank you for my coffee, Andy. And then I went and sat down like the awkward person I am.
Very cool. And so I've actually never been to Ashland. I've only been to Portland. Is Ashland like Portland, like where they're like, keep it weird and do strange things?
I loved how weird Ashland was and how accepting of diversity it was. Coming from where I live, that is not very often. So I absolutely loved just how open and welcoming and loving the whole entire town was. And it just felt like the whole town felt like a hug. It was just so magical to be there and to actually see how it was so welcoming of a community in there. It was just so good to be able to go. And I'm going again. I already booked my room at the same inn. So I'm very excited.
Oh yeah. Tell us about the 2024 trip. When is it and what's it going to be?
Yeah, it's actually, in fact, later today, the website's going to go live with all of the author announcements of everyone who's coming. I'm so excited. And this year's, you might just bump into Lance on the plaza. That's all I'm going to say. We'll see. We'll see how that's going to shake out. I know. It is October 17th through 20th. It's a Thursday through a Sunday. And this year there are 15 authors coming from all over the country. And the whole idea is to just really, because Ashland is at its core very cozy. If we're comparing it to Portland, there is that like, I don't know if I would say weird, because Portland has a little bit more like maybe of an edge to it, I would say. I grew up in Portland. Ashland is very eclectic in terms of the personality that it attracts, because the Oregon Shakespeare Festival is centered there. So it's a lot of actors, playwrights, musicians. There's just this like creative energy in the air almost. So the idea is to not just like come to a book conference and meet authors, but like actually engage and do events around town and like fully immerse yourself in the coziness. That's the vibe. We're going to do a murder masquerade dinner at Ashland Springs Hotel one night. There's a murder themed dinner. Yeah. It's,
yeah. I will be doing the murder themed dinner again because it was so good and the food was amazing. And like that eyeball dessert with like the blood splatter with it was so good. It was so tasty, just so much fun. And then there were regular like people that were from Ashland that went to it too. And so I got to know like those people. And then it was just so much fun getting to feel as though you were automatically a part of the community there. It was so awesome.
And you stayed at a really nice boutique hotel, right? Or was it like
Yes,
a
the name is leaving my head.
The Winchester?
Yes, I stayed at the Winchester, and they were amazing. Like, they had little chocolates, like beautifully made chocolates just waiting for you. They gave you fresh flowers every morning, and they were just so kind, and all of like the natural light, and then like the seating outside. That's where I'm staying again. And I'm pretty sure Spencer is also going to be there too. And it's going to be so good. I can't wait to see what year 2 brings. Like, my husband, I was like, you've got the boys. I'm going alone again. Thank you.
It's a perfect getaway, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't know you grew up in Portland. So in Portland, to me, I think Portland's cool. Austin is cool, right? They're all supposed to be these cool places. Any reason why you chose Ashland over Portland?
I'd just been in Portland my entire life. And at that point in time, my son was just starting middle school, and Portland had really grown so fast. It had gone from, it's always been, a bigger city, but for a big city, it exploded in population and doubled. And we were like, we need something new. We want something different. And I had been writing the series for like 4 or 5 years prior to moving there. And I was really worried because I went down to Ashland. It's about a 5-hour drive from Portland.
Mm-hmm.
I would go down and visit, and I grew up visiting Ashland because my dad taught Shakespeare. So the Oregon Shakespeare Festival was always part of our family tradition. But I was worried, like, oh my gosh, I have built it up to be this magical place, like Courtney's describing it in my head. And what if we move there and it's awful and people are not this? But it was even better. It was fantastic. Yeah. And it was a great space to be able to have my son spend his middle school and high school years, because it's almost like going back in time a little bit, and you're in the mountains. So like, he and his friends in the summer would go by themselves when they were in high school, like before all of them could drive, and camp out and hike for like 4 or 5 days in the mountains. And yeah.
That's so cool. I want that for my boys. Like, you can't get that here in Tulsa, but I would love to be able to move out west, someplace like that. Like, that would be, I know, I keep telling my husband, and he's like, hey, like, the only thing tying us down are grandparents.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, plus, how did the teaching certificates work? Would you have to get a whole new license for each state you moved to?
Yes. So like my years, so 12, this is my 12th year in education. My years would transfer over, like, pay rate wise, but I would have to take that state's certification tests for education, which actually, fun fact, even though Oklahoma is 49th in how much they pay their teachers, we are the hardest education test to take in the United States.
So you can ace anything now.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. But there's like, they make us take 3 different types of tests to become educators here in Oklahoma.
But 49th in
Yep.
pay? Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, no, it's the worst.
I mean, isn't your pension? So my friend Stacy teaches, and obviously she's older, but she's like, I only have 6 more years and I can retire. She's like, because she got another offer, and she was just playing around, like in California or something. She's like, but I can't. She's like, the pension won't transfer over.
So my pension will stay with me. Like, if I leave education, my pension's still my pension. I can still take it. But I will retire when my husband retires. So I will get to retire early, because Aaron gets to retire, I think he said, at like 55. And so I will get to retire when I'm like 52.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. But that's only if you stay in Oklahoma, right?
Yeah. So he works for Quick Trip, and so he works for he's an architectural engineer. So he's been with the company almost 20 years. So we've got a lot. We'll have to stay here until he retires, basically.
And then you can travel the world.
Yes.
Exactly.
Which is what we plan on doing.
And you'll still be young.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. All right. So at Shakespeare Festival, is that a real thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. So, and that's in Ashland, and it works just like the book.
It does. Yeah. There are 5 stages in town. There's a green show. The season runs from March until October. And they do shows, matinees and multiple shows every day except Monday through that whole run. So like an actor who's hired if you're playing like Othello, let's say, you might do 300 performances of that same show from March until October, which again, I think is another reason for that. There's just sort of this eclectic creative energy in the air. You have a lot of actors who come in from other parts of the country. So they recruit from everywhere. And then a ton of OSF actors have gone on to star in movies and shows. Ty Burrell from Modern Family, like he grew up and spent and got all of his stage time in Ashland first. So it's really fun. You can sometimes spot celebrities who are back in town to see shows. And yeah,
it was really cool. We saw what was it? The Murder of Roger Ackroyd when we were there. And it was so good. Like, and we did like the multiple course meal with the drinks, and it was so much fun. And it just felt, you were so immersed into it. It was so good.
Yeah. And that's at the Oregon Cabaret. And that's the other thing, even though Ashland is really small, it's only 20,000 people. There are 5 or 6 also smaller theaters in town and around town that support the community. So it's definitely very theater centric. It's like Oregon's little version of Broadway or something. Like you can go to a different show any night.
That cracks me up. 20,000 people for Ashland. We have over 20,000 students in my district.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just move your student body population.
Yeah, just move all of them. Like I think our graduating classes this year is over 1,500.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of schools then and a lot of buildings, right?
Oh, we only have one high school.
One high school?
That many? There's no way.
Yeah. Our high school is 10th through 12th. And it's like a mini college campus. My high school is the largest high school in Oklahoma.
Wow.
Why don't they just break it up?
The band.
Because of the band.
The band. We're not, like, we sports ball in Broken Arrow. We do. But we band harder.
We band hard. We band hard.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Yeah, like they've won like USA like things. Like they go to New York every single year.
Oh. Were you in the band as a kid? No.
I'm not musically inclined in any way, shape, or form.
Ellie, were you in a band?
No.
No.
How about you?
I played everything. The piano, the trumpet, the sax, the flute, the cornet. I wanted to be a band conductor.
Oh, amazing.
So my friends, I'm sure it's very unhygienic, but my friends and I would all just teach each other like the flute and the sax and the cornet, and we'd all swap instruments. Yeah, it's pre-COVID. So
I was going to say, it's pre-COVID. You're fine, right?
Yeah.
Back in the days where you went to a friend's house to get the chicken pox, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
For sure. I did not know that my town is small. There was only 300 in the graduating class. So we definitely did not go to any competitions.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Maybe I should have told my parents we should have moved to Oklahoma.
Or maybe you need to write a band conductor cozy.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's done that. That would be.
Yeah, I don't think I've read a band conductor cozy.
Yeah. Because it's more like a high school thing, I think.
But couldn't you rim an instrument with like some kind of poison?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or someone could be found in the middle of the harp.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Smashed with like stabbed with the bass. I think we have a whole new series for you. Let's make this happen.
Yes. My mind murders people constantly. Yeah. So I can come up with
just write it together.
Yeah.
Trade off every other chapter.
That's right. Oh, that would be fun, actually. I love that idea.
So back to Shakespeare. So do you guys you're both Shakespeare fans, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite Shakespeare play?
Ooh.
I know. So my favorite is Much Ado About Nothing because it's more like a romantic comedy and it's kind of light and happy. So yeah. But otherwise, I mean, I like Shakespeare, but I'm not like a hardcore Shakespeare fan.
I don't know if I have a favorite one. It has been a while since I've read any Shakespeare at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved
right?
I loved Much Ado About Nothing. I loved the video remake by Josh Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
That one was really, really good. It was hilarious.
Did you also like it though? I liked it because he put in so many characters from his other TV shows.
Yeah.
So that helped.
Yes, I am an avid Buffy, Angel, Firefly, all of the Whedon-ness. That's me. Yeah.
Firefly forever. I can't believe that show got canceled. I'm gonna say my favorite is probably Midsummer Night's Eve. Just because it's the same thing. It's whimsical, it's funny, but there are all those other layers in it. Because my dad taught Shakespeare, I read it so much as a kid. And then to this day, he will just at will quote long sections of any of Shakespeare's works. I don't have that same skill set or desire to do a deep dive. Like if I'm working on a book, I will try to make sure that whatever play I'm putting in the book and whatever sort of quotes and everything, like I might go do a rewatch, but I don't read a lot of Shakespeare for pleasure, I would say.
Yeah.
Your dad taught was he a theater professor or
English? But he was specialized in Shakespeare. Yeah.
Your dad's so cool.
And you didn't memorize it just by...
I mean, I did by default.
Yeah,
and he had me practice it. Like I definitely have memories of being a pretty young kid. And actually every summer my parents would throw a Midsummer Night's Eve party, like complete with full costumes and the food in our backyard. I was always Peas Bottom. So yeah, it's definitely, it's part of like, it's in my cellular DNA, but I would probably choose something a little more, light, I would say, if I was reading.
Yeah, no one's like picking up Othello for fun.
I know. I mean, people are, but not me.
Yeah, or I guess some people do. Yeah. So let's talk about something we all love, desserts.
Yeah.
So every single book has like a new dessert. Let's just talk about the bakery that Juliet has. And she owns it with her mom, right?
Yes.
Correct.
And so what's the menu like there?
Oh, yeah. The menu is very artisan, very like Oregon centric, I would say, like a big focus on whatever's fresh and in season, not cloyingly sweet things, more like a very layered, nuanced kind of pastry, and always a savory menu as well. So like I have notes right now because I'm working on this book. There's a chocolate banana sponge cake. There's a pineapple cake with coconut buttercream. These are all the things that I've just said in the draft that I'm working on. Lemon curd cupcakes, chocolate tahini cookies, strawberry brioche. So now I have to go through this list and decide like, okay, out of all of those desserts, like what are maybe the top 2 or 3?
Chocolate tahini.
Right? I mean, that has to happen.
I mean, and what's Andy making?
Andy's making a Tokyo spring cherry blossom.
I was going to say, is it cherry blossom?
Yeah.
So Aaron and I went to Japan for 2 weeks in 2019. That's when I got the Japanese version of your book. But I loved like all the coffee, the food. Like it was, I just want to go back so bad. So I'm very excited that he has a Japanese themed coffee. And will I make it at home? Yes, I will.
Yes, you will.
I was in Japan for 4 months. I don't remember Japanese coffee. I was like one of those awful tour. I was there for work. So I was just so grateful that anything was in English. I just went to Starbucks every morning. So boring. But what is Japanese coffee? What did I miss?
It's just like different types of like things that you wouldn't necessarily find in American coffee. So like with like the Japanese cherry blossom, like that just sounds just so. I had an amazing lavender one when we were in Japan, which lavender hadn't been like huge in the coffee places that I live. So I got to have that there. They just have the way that they mix in like the sweet, but also the savory within their coffee is also really cool.
Yeah, like
you were
herbs.
You didn't actually go to Starbucks like me.
So the only time I went to Starbucks was when I wanted to get the Starbucks Japanese mugs that were specific for those places. So when we were in Osaka, I did that, and then when we were in Tokyo, I got a Tokyo mug. But I'm one of those people that when I'm going on vacation, I'm not eating anywhere that there is a restaurant in Oklahoma of. So like if I go to Ashland, I'm not eating any place that is corporate. I'm not going to go to any of those places. So my sister loves and hates it when she travels with me because I'm like, no, we're not going to McDonald's. No, we're not going to Wendy's. No,
I agree. You should. I mean, as long as you're already out there.
Exactly.
But did the Japanese Starbucks have like unique drinks to Japan?
Yes.
No.
Not when I was there. They had unique. So they had unique foods.
Okay.
Because Japan doesn't do like breakfasty kind of foods. So a lot of like they don't like whenever we went to any restaurant, like if they had a breakfast menu, it was a American breakfast menu. But like everyone else was eating rice and like all different kinds of just their normal food every day. So there were a lot of different types of food at the Starbucks that I went to. But they had like regular like chai tea and things like that.
For some reason on the train every morning you'd see people, it's like a goo. It's that Joe Weider. It's the stuff that marathon triathlon on the, I don't know why they eat that for breakfast. And it says Joe Weider, like that muscle guy from the 90s. And they were like, oh, it's American. Do you want it? I was like, absolutely not.
No, thank you.
No, my favorite place to get snacks was 7-Eleven.
Oh.
They have amazing, like, they had like crepes. They had like all different kinds of really cool snacks and foods. Like I'm now craving that chocolate crepe that they had. It was so good. So good.
We're going next spring, and my entire Instagram feed is just that. And I've seen so many like 7-Eleven, like all the vending and like
it's amazing. And there's vending machines for everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Machines everywhere.
You have to go to Coco Ichibanya and have their chicken curry.
Okay. You're gonna have to send me a whole list.
I will.
Very cool. Okay, so back to our favorite desserts. So I've actually never had, it was spiced curry buns and chai cookies, which now I want both. Did you try these yet, Courtney? Did you try
No, but I remember the description because I listened to this book on audio. And so like my mouth was watering as I was driving and I was just like, why do I not have it in front of me right now?
Yeah, I cannot find those anywhere. Where did you just make this up?
Yeah, I just totally made it up.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Are you just sitting around? You're like, I would like a spiced curry bun.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. And I tried a couple different iterations of it. So this one that I landed on, you do almost like a traditional Japanese bun. But I stuffed it with like a curry chickpea, or you could do chicken. You could have a vegetarian option. And then I am a sucker for any of the warming spices. I love cardamom is my favorite spice. Anything chai. And so I was thinking, winter, I would want a chai. So what if we just put that in a cookie? Yeah.
So you made these up.
Yeah.
And you try all the recipes right before they go in the book?
I do. Yes. And in fact, usually I will bake things like 2 to 3 times to make sure, going back to our early point, that like they actually work.
All right. I know this is going to be hard, but which is your favorite?
Oh, I mean, in Meet Your Baker, the very first book in the series, there's the recipe for my mom's homemade raspberry Danish.
And I had that one. I made that one.
Did you make that one? Mm-hmm. It's gooey and you so just good. Slather it with raspberry jam and vanilla buttercream. And like the whole series is a little bit of an homage to her because she died when I was younger. So I think that like that's probably my favorite like food memory because she would make that all the time growing up. So I love that I get to like pass that on to a new generation of readers.
Very cool. Do you have a favorite, Courtney?
Oh my gosh. So there was a coffee drink that Andy made that was very summery. I'm trying to remember the exact one. It was from the Cruise book, A Crime of Passion Fruit. I don't remember the name of it, but that was absolutely phenomenal. And then there was, I'm blanking on all the names, but I have like a whole series of me baking from these, and it's just, they're just so good. Like, there was a banana pudding one.
Oh yeah.
I made that and my husband annihilated it. Like, it was so good. So freaking good. I loved, that one was so good. I love banana pudding though. My team at work was very, very mad because they saw the vlog of me making it and they were like, why didn't you bring me to work? I was like, guys, it didn't even make it past the weekend. So sorry.
Do you guys have so I know when I love baking too, but when I go to anywhere, like a pastry, coffee shop, my go-to is always croissants because they're so hard to make, like, you know what I mean, at home. So those are my favorite. Do you guys have a favorite when you go to a coffee shop?
If they have a maple pecan anything, I will try it because I have a very big weakness for like candied pecans. I can just eat them by the handful. But if it's savory, it's normally like a quiche that I go for. I really like quiche.
Okay.
I mean, I would say I would probably lean towards something citrusy, like if there's lemon or orange in a pastry. I would always go for something like you, Lisa, that I know like I couldn't make at home as well. So I would probably bypass like a cookie or a pie, and go with whatever's most complicated. And or if there's a special, I will almost always order the special because you know that's what the chef is like really invested in that day. Yeah.
Right. Anything that's your least favorite? Like I actually am the opposite. I will avoid like fruit tarts because I'm like, oh, if I wanted to eat healthy, I'd have a banana at home. So I will avoid fruit tarts. Is there anything like you definitely avoid?
I think I avoid really, really heavy things like super heavy, like chocolate cake or like, not that I don't like it, but their slices are so big that I'm not going to finish it. And I don't like to be wasteful with the food. And so like, normally I'll get like a mini version of whatever. Like I love it when they've got like a mini maple bun or like a mini this, because then I get a small taste of it, but I don't feel so heavy and weighed down from it.
Yeah, sometimes that happens with those flourless chocolate cakes. They're so good because they're so thick, but then afterwards you're like, oh, just now I need a nap.
Yeah. That's a gut bomb. I don't think there's anything I avoid except I hate fish.
Oh, do you?
Which is terrible. Like I want to love it. I never have. It's my husband's favorite. It too. It's my son's favorite. I write about it because like, but I just
so no sushi. Cozies in your future.
It makes me so sad.
Yeah, when I cook it, I make it for me, and my boys will eat it off my plate. But if I put it on their plate, they won't eat it. They're very, I don't know, man. But yeah, I love fish. My husband does not like it at all.
I love fish and sushi. So, yeah. All right. So Juliet Capshaw, is she a mini you?
Ooh. I mean, everybody has pieces of me, I would say, because you can't take that out of yourself, right? But she's very different than me too. I think I'm much more pragmatic than she is. She lives in this very romantic fantasy world. I always like create enneagrams and horoscopes and a playlist and all these other layers. So I think she's an amalgam of a few people who I know as well. Like she's based after two of my good friends, and then I think probably when the series first started, there was more of me that was probably unintentionally even weaved into her. But as I've gotten to know her and she takes over so much more now, she is like a fully fleshed out different person. And it's kind of like what you said, like about seeing Lance. Like there are times where I'm like, oh, well, I wish Juliet could just come over for a coffee and we would talk because she feels like a sister to me at this stage.
Yeah, I was telling my mom because she was asking me when my book was going to come out, and she was like, I just can't really get into cozies. Like she's read mine, but she was like, and yours is good. I just can't really. Do you have a series you recommend? And I was like, Mom, Meet Your Baker. I was like, do
Obviously.
Come on. And she was like, well, and I was like, Mom, this is the perfect cozy to start with. I was like, and my favorite character is Lance, and he is this just flaming, just amazing, just all of these, like he is the gay best friend that you always want to have. And she goes, oh well, I love myself that. And I was like, yeah. So just go and read that, and then you'll understand why I love cozies.
And so does Jules have the same sidekick every book, or does it kind of change?
I mean, Lance is usually always involved, but other characters throughout the series have kind of taken a little bit more like screen time, so to speak, and gotten involved. Like Sterling, her sous chef, and Andy, her barista, have
Bethany.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've tried to like give everybody like a little more time as the series has gone on, but usually it's her and Lance. And Lance is so over the top that of course he's always going to be like, come on, we gotta go solve this murder.
Yes.
We got this. Yeah.
And if someone's jumping in right now, new, who is Lance and where does he fit in?
Yeah, so Lance is the artistic director at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival and Juliet's best friend. And he's also a mashup of two of my very, very good friends. So it's always so fun to get to take pieces of their personalities and weave them into the story. But he is much more forward, obnoxious, pushy. But he also has this very tender and sweet side that he doesn't like. He kind of has this theatrical flair because he is the artistic director of a major Shakespeare company, which I think is fun because I couldn't maybe get away with that if this series was set in like Chicago or something, but it's pretty grounded in reality for Ashland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to watch his character grow so much over the past 18 books has been absolutely amazing. I've loved every second of it. Like he is just like I wish he was my best friend or like my uncle or like I want he's just so good. He's just so good and he's hilarious. He says everything that I'm thinking. Like I'm not going to say it out loud, but like he will. I'm like yeah, you're right. You're right.
Very cool. So you have a lot of different series. Do you want to give us a rundown of all your series?
Sure. Yeah, I have another series that's set in Leavenworth, the Sloane Cross Mysteries, and those feature a female brewer who solves the crime. And Leavenworth is kind of like Ashland in that it's very small and it's kitschy. It's all themed like a little Bavaria. At some point in time, we're going to have to go do a mystery fest there too, so everybody can experience that, right? And then my first series that I wrote is set in the Portland area, and it features a very young journalist who wants to be a like New York Times investigative reporter but can't get a job, and so she ends up writing for this outdoor magazine, and they send her on all these adventures. I'm getting ready to re-release that series this year as Ellie. I know. And then I have a brand new series coming out in June that is going to be set in an Agatha Christie inspired bookstore in Northern California. So the first two books in that series come out in June.
Very cool. Wait, why Northern California?
Because I moved to Northern California 2 years ago. My husband got relocated for work. And so I had to, take a little time, get a lay of the land, and then be like, we got to murder somebody.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
So what are your writing plans for 2024? What books are coming out? What are you working on?
Right. The next book in the Bakeshop will come out in August, Sticks and Scones. The first two of this new series, The Body in the Bookstore and A Murder at the Movies, will come out in June, followed by book 3. This is a very fast publishing schedule with this new publishing house, will come out in October. That is Death at a Dinner Party. And I think that's it for the year. If I have time, I'm going to try to maybe squeeze in one other holiday surprise, but we'll see how my schedule goes.
Are these all Minotaur books?
No, Minotaur is the Bakeshop. The new series is coming out with a publisher in the UK called Storm.
Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Does that mean your book is going to come out first in the UK?
No, it'll come out everywhere at the same time. And they have a great model in that they release ebook, paperback, and audio all at once. And the first two books, it's like, when a new season of your favorite series drops the first 2 episodes, they release the first 2 books together too.
I love that.
All right. Very cool. And where can readers find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, they can find me at elliealexander.co, and that has links to all my socials.
Okay, cool. And then I guess we just had a couple questions. We already answered this one, the recipes. And then Diane asked, how do you treat yourself during release day /week?
Ooh, that's a good question, Diane. Usually I take myself out for a coffee, and some sort of delicious pastry. And, then I often will carve out extra time to read, because reading is still my number one passion. In fact, I just got home from Costa Rica last night, like I mentioned, and I read 3 books on vacation, which was just like 3 books in 8 days. Like, it's like being, back in college again, where you have the whole summer to read. So yeah, usually I will try in release week, as long as my schedule works, to actually like carve out extra reading time, because that's just so luxurious for me.
Nice. And then last question from Diane again. How do you decompress after you finish a book?
Oh, that is another great question. After I finish, I write really bad first drafts quickly. It takes me about 6 weeks to write a book, and then I will just set it aside and work on a new project. So it's almost like there are so many layers to writing that I never maybe officially decompress. But after I finish a first draft, I always celebrate. I always do something, like I'll make myself a fun special dinner, or think about a recipe from the book to try that night. But I have to say, even with everything I've written, like that does not get old for me. Like, it still feels so joyful to have a book release or to finish writing a book. I feel like if I ever get to the point where it's just sort of blasé, or like, I wrote another book, then I have to stop writing, because that would come through in the writing, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Very cool. And you're a full-time author, right?
I am. Now I am, yeah. But it's taken years to get to that point.
I mean, have you thought about also becoming a part-time baker?
Oh my gosh, my dream. I would so love to open Tort in real life. Tort Nitro in real life would be my ultimate dream. But I would want to partner with someone. I have an incredible friend, and she's my pastry muse, Chrissy from Tier, who, like, she is the most brilliant baker on the planet. So if someday we could manifest that she could actually be Jules and bake all the things, and I just supply the recipes and show up. And I mean, I would love to bake too, but her stuff would look beautiful in the cases. I would come in and like make cinnamon rolls and the easy stuff. But yeah,
that would be perfect. And then we can host the next reader like festival there.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much to both of you for being on here and being so awesome. I'm going to leave links for everybody, for Courtny and for Ellie, in the description or the show notes if you're listening to this on a podcast. And we will all see you later.
Yay. Thanks so much, Lisa.
Bye. Thank you.